And here is your Piki. You are destined for...
I didn't quite hear that last part, but it sounded important. Destined for what?
When it comes to reboots of superhero movies, lately filmmakers have decided to skip the hero's origin story altogether. At first, I thought this was the right choice, especially with stories like Spider-Man, which have been retold 3 times over in the span of 15 years. But with every new retelling and reboot of superhero films, it becomes more apparent that many of these movies lack a critical foundation for their characters, something that only an origin story can provide. The common argument for skipping the origin story is because everybody knows them already. We already know that Krypton was destroyed, that Bruce Wayne's parents were murdered, that Spider-Man got his powers from a radioactive spider. And yes, these stories are so universally famous that most people, including general audiences, do know their key aspects already. But even though these superheroes are well known, I think it's too generous to assume that everyone is already familiar with them, and that no one wants to see their origins again. There's always going to be new viewers coming in completely unaware of who these people are, and the origin story gives the best introduction to them. If the only reason you're skipping backstory is because everybody knows it already, then you're doing a disservice to the story you're trying to tell. It implies that backstories exist only as an info dump, just general background knowledge that doesn't affect the main story. But a character's actions, their worldview, all of it is shaped by their backstory. Just because we already know the story doesn't mean it shouldn't be shown again. With that logic, why even reboot the movie at all? We already know Superman defeats Lex Luthor, so why bother telling the story again? The same justification for rebooting Superman for the millionth time applies to retelling his origin story as well, because it's a retelling. Each reboot has its own interpretation of the hero and their struggles. No version of Superman is identical, so a reboot is worthwhile because it brings a new spin to the story. And since none of the Superman movies are the same, their origins wouldn't be exactly the same either. Their backstory may have the same core elements, but aside from that, there are so many different ways to interpret a hero's origins and shape a new version of them. This is especially clear with the Spider-Man movies. Both the 2002 and 2012 Spider-Man get bitten by a radioactive spider and lose their uncle, but from there, their origins differ. Their growth and internal conflict and the way they react to their powers are different, so each version is still fresh and fun to watch even though you already know their basic backstory. Of course, not every superhero movie needs to expand on the origins. It depends on the story being told. Sometimes just a quick opening flashback is enough to provide a strong groundwork for the rest of the movie. Even so, I think the biggest case for origin stories lies in 2 recent adaptations of the 2 most popular superheroes, Superman and Spider-Man.
Superman, we finally meet. Would you like a coffee?
Where's the dog?
Dog?
Superman 2025 begins with a short block of text, giving 3 centuries worth of crucial backstory in just under a minute. I'm not a fan of this opening, partly because it's a cliche way of delivering exposition, and mostly because it's so baffling. Although the backstory is explained as succinctly as possible, it's still really jarring. This is our first introduction to Superman, and already it feels like we jumped midway into the series. It felt like I turned on the TV and decided to watch whatever movie's playing, even though it's already halfway through. Any one of these exposition points in the introduction could have been shown visually, and it would have been immensely more impactful. The opening sets the tone for the entire film, making it feel like a sequel instead of something that stands on its own. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed this movie. The performances are great, it's action-packed and very thoughtful, but I had trouble resonating with many of the scenes because all I could think is that it felt like a continuation of a movie I hadn't seen before. I think it would have been a perfect sequel, because sequels don't need backstory, and by then, we'd already be familiar with these versions of the characters. But this isn't a sequel, so the movie feels a little hollow because of that. Superman's origin story is especially compelling, so there's no need to skip it. His home planet blows up, he's sent to Earth, and he's raised by loving, humble farmers. It's his upbringing that shapes who he is and makes him kind and humble despite his superpowers. This is a core theme in 2025 Superman. In the final scene, Clark gazes lovingly at clips of his childhood, so in this movie, backstory is crucial. Unfortunately, since his origin is completely skipped over for most of the film, this core theme falls flat. Both Superman 1978 and Man of Steel give a glimpse into Krypton's destruction and Clark Kent's upbringing in Smallville. I honestly think these are the best ways to introduce Superman. Both versions have a different take on Clark's backstory, but they both provide something compelling. I love the visuals and emotion in 1978 Superman, and how Man of Steel shows Clark's difficulty adjusting to his powers. Both origin stories also allow for a strong contrast between Clark's past and present. His struggles in Smallville compared to Metropolis only show how much he's grown as a person. One of the reasons Smallville, the TV show, works so well is because it's completely focused on Clark's origins. We get to see Superman before he's a famous hero, and it humanizes his character. We see him struggle to adjust to his powers, to make meaningful connections, to grow and learn and become the best version of himself, someone everyone can admire and look up to. We see him as more than just this perfect, all-powerful hero with no emotions. This is also something Superman 2025 tries to convey, and while I do love how the movie emphasizes Clark's kindness and humanity, I feel like it could have gone even further with an origin story to make the message even stronger. This movie could have been a great opportunity to explore Clark's early beginnings as Superman in Metropolis. Man of Steel, for instance, sort of goes into Clark's beginnings, but only scratches the surface. So 2025 Superman could have taken a new route with his origins. I would have loved to see this version of Clark starting his new job at the Daily Planet, meeting Lois Lane, and introducing himself as Superman to the world for the first time. But again, this movie skips all of that and goes right into Clark being a well-known superhero. It's a detriment, especially to Clark and Lois's relationship. Right away, as soon as Lois is introduced, they're already established as a couple. The movie emphasizes the importance of Clark and Lois's relationship and gives them a lot of screen time, but I couldn't completely connect with them. I think it's nice, but I'm kind of indifferent to their relationship because there's no foundation. When it comes to romantic subplots, it's so important to show the couple's initial dynamics, the slow progression, and how their feelings develop. All of it adds tension and makes you root for the characters to be together. But since the film skips Clark's origins, we're also deprived of that romantic progression. Clark's journey in the movie, both with his relationships and personal growth, is stunted because the film fails to provide these meaningful pieces of backstory.
Spider Pig does whatever a Spider Pig does.
I was initially excited to watch Spider-Man Homecoming because the trailers looked promising. It seemed like it would take a coming-of-age approach to Spider-Man's character, like a high school comedy with a superhero twist. So I was really disappointed when I actually watched the movie. I feel like the promotional posters showed more personality than the movie itself. I couldn't connect with this version of Spider-Man at all, and a big factor to it is his missing backstory. Tony Stark, for instance, is established as the sort of mentor figure to Peter, taking the place of Uncle Ben. And while this seems like an interesting angle, it felt very surface level throughout the movie. I didn't feel like they really had a bond, and showing the beginning of their relationship might have helped strengthen it. For Spider-Man specifically, an origin story is a lot of fun. Origin stories tend to be my favorite because they provide so much opportunity for character growth. The hero has to get used to their powers, they struggle and mess up a lot, and when they finally do succeed, it's especially satisfying because we've seen their journey and all the obstacles they overcame to get there. By taking away the origin story, Spider-Man Homecoming takes away that essential character growth and deprives him of being a fully fleshed out character. While watching the movie, we're left to fill in the blanks on his much needed backstory. I don't really mind that Tony Stark is a big part of Homecoming, but I don't like that he takes away some of Peter's agency. In both the 2002 and 2012 adaptations, Peter made his own suit and had to figure out everything on his own. So in comparison, 2017 Peter is less impressive, especially because the super suit is basically just handed to him. I don't think that Peter getting a super high-tech suit is a bad thing on its own, just the way it was executed. If there was an origin story, we probably would have seen 2017 Peter make his own superhero suit, which probably would have looked more juvenile, and then he could get an upgrade from Tony later on, which would be much more rewarding. Since this goes in a new direction by tying Spider-Man to the Avengers, his origin story should be shown since it's likely very different from what we've seen before. I would have liked to see how Peter got his powers this time around, how he met Tony Stark, and why he decided to become a superhero. Both 2002 and 2012 Spider-Man have very similar backstories, but they tackle it in completely different ways. 2002 Spider-Man has a wrestling match, Green Goblin, and organic spiderwebs. 2012 Spider-Man leans on the science and technology side, with the Lizard as the main enemy, and Peter creating artificial webs through his own invention. Both versions have their own special flair, and they're unique to their version of Peter Parker, so I'm sure that 2017 Spider-Man origin story would have been unique as well, and would have given more dimension to his otherwise bland character.
You're a villain, all right. Just not a super one.
Yeah? What's the difference?
Presentation!
Origin stories are crucial to a superhero's character development and set the tone for the movies that follow. They're one of the best parts of the story, so they shouldn't be omitted just for the sake of not repeating things. If a story is worth retelling, then it should be done wholeheartedly, including the origins, which provide so much essential character depth. By including origin stories, the movie can stand on its own instead of relying on the audience's background knowledge to fill in the gaps for character development and relationship development. Origin stories are the heart of superhero stories, so I'm hoping we'll get to see some more of them again in the future, regardless of whether they're well known or not. Thank you so much for watching. Do you think Superman and Spider-Man made the right choice skipping their origins? What are your favorite origin stories in superhero movies? Let me know in the comments.
Hey, Metro City.